for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby, they don't want you to see, but everybody south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me, I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my old flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on to the hearse. Party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday to all of you out there in the ethos. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and we actually have a pretty packed show today, so I got to bring my guy in here, man. What's up, big O? Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, Trey Holiday. Happy Wednesday. It's good to see you, and man, you popping off the screen today.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. You know, I appreciate it all the time. Anytime.
All right, good stuff. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. And as usual, I want to remind you that right now, there's no better time than the present to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the Morning Update Show with people who you feel could appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. And like you said, we got a full show today. We're joined by Nguyen. State Senator Nguyen is running for King County Executive. That's Dow Constantine's seat. Yeah. So Nguyen's going to be here. Executive Constantine gave a State of the County address yesterday, and Joe's here to talk about it. Mm-hmm. We're also joined by Stephanie Gallardo. Stephanie Gallardo is running for Congress. I think Adam Smith's seat. Been in there at that seat for like 25 years. Yeah. So it's like the challengers are coming up, and that race isn't until actually next year. Stephanie said, hey, man, I got to get the word out early. Yeah. So we'll be talking to her as well.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that may be a part of the campaign and probably a smart move, too, because many people know Representative Adam Smith. So, Hey, there we go. It's going to be necessary. We've been talking about these races heating up. Oh, we're seeing it play out.
Yep. So as usual, want to give a big shout out to our partners over at KBCS 91.3 out there at Bellevue College. A lot of times they'll take audio clips here from the Morning Update Show and air them there. So always a big shout out, KBCS 91.3. And a reminder, we got a screen share here. The Morning Update Show. You can find the Morning Update Show wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Right there is SoundCloud up on the screen. But if you're in iTunes, Google, Spotify, some everywhere in the podcast world, you can listen to the Morning Update Show. And I believe thank God Olya's back. Yeah. Olya's going to shshare that link to SoundCloud there as well.
Awesome. We got the wide variety of ways to reach out and get this community news, y'all.
Right. And, I want to continue with this daily reminder. We usually have a graphic, but I think I misplaced it, my handcrafted graphic, but we'll remind everybody that appointments are no longer necessary for the city vaccine locations. That's including down there at Lumen Field. It's funny, me and Jake were by there yesterday. It still says WAMU out there. That's a throwback. WAMU. Yeah. It's good old days before Chase stole them in the middle of the night. That's a whole nother story. But vaccinations, no appointment is required. So if you're in the city of Seattle, man, and you're trying to get a vaccination, it's there, it's available. And also looks like CDC, we talked about it yesterday. They made an adjustment now for 12 to 15-year-olds for the vaccine. Man, before we jump into everything, I talked about it yesterday. Me, the big fella, Jake Gravbrot, also was joined by Ibrahim Omar and Curtis Delgado, our production team over here. We had Safeco Field all to ourselves, although we did see Ichiro down there throwing a few balls around. And we did a shoot for Baseball Beyond Borders. It was a great day yesterday. We actually got a clip for tomorrow, but for today, you go ahead and put this up here, Olya. Man, look at that, huh? That's the look of a kid in a candy store right there. And that's Kamal from Baseball Beyond Borders, and that's Sean right there. And we did some interviews there at the stadium. I mean, man, you talk about a big kid yesterday over there at Safeco. It was an amazing day. We got a few video clips. We're going to put that together tomorrow. And also, it was great for our young team here, our young team of producers with Ibrahim, Omar, and Curtis Delgado. They were over there, man. They only been on the job for a few days, and they're already over in the stadium doing shoots.
Exactly. That's what I said. I said, man, a few days in, you guys are getting the experience necessary, and that's really what it takes. And I got to say, when you talk about being a big kid, yesterday you were so excited, and the energy was clear. You were ready to get to the field. That was it. Period. Point blank.
This is what I'm saying. Is we talk about a lot of stuff here. It's politics and this and that, and today more politics or whatever. But it's like I love how it's like that's that, but this is baseball. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? That's not my life. Who's in city council and who's this and that? You know what I'm saying? Go for what brings you joy.
There you go.
And man, it's a lot of joy over there. I got one national headline here. And then we're going to move on. We'll take a break, and we're going to come back with Joe Nguyen. But I thought this was pretty interesting what happened in Washington, D.C. this morning. The Republicans, they've given Liz Cheyney the boot.
We have some breaking news. Representative Liz Cheyney of the Republican Party has been removed from her leadership post. There was a closed-door vote this morning. It didn't last very long before Republicans did what we expected and went ahead and removed Cheyney from her post. Now the question will be who replaces her. Now, afterward, Cheyney told reporters that she did not feel betrayed by the vote and that she will keep fighting to prevent former President Trump from ever making his way back into the Oval Office. Cheyney was removed after criticizing not only President Trump, but any Republican and any person really who's been spreading false accusations that the 2020 election was stolen. Her party has decided now to remove her. And we're going to go to Avery Harper, our political director, to talk a little bit about what this means for the Republican Party. Avery, no surprise here other than maybe the speed with which this vote went down. But what does this mean now going forward, not only for Cheyney, but also for the party and for Congress in general?
Right. I mean, we've now seen, rather unsurprisingly, that Liz Cheyney has been ousted from her role as the Republican conference chair in the House. And this is sending a message that, if you are not with former President Donald Trump, then you are not with this Republican Party.
All right. So, this was telegraphed that Liz Cheyney, she survived the first vote a few months ago. But, you know, she's not on the Trump train, man. And so they've kicked her out, the number 3 leadership position, the Republicans.
Well, it baffles me because I think there was a lot of people actually, regardless if it was Democrat or Republican, that were actually saying there was nothing wrong here. There was other Republicans coming out saying, look, we've seen that this was an up election. There was no kind of, you know, stealing the election or illegal votes happening. So there, you know, to put this on Liz because she's being so vocal about it, you know, ultimately it just goes to show how some of these parties really are about alliances versus truth. And again, you know, it just plays into the distrust that I think a lot of the public has with our elected officials, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you know, I brought this up right here, right? Because these are the Republicans. This is the right wing. And the right wing is sitting there basically saying, like, if you're not with Trump, we're gonna cancel you, right? It's cancel culture. Well, let's come and bring this to Seattle, where we've got far left liberals who tell Converge, if you put on a politician we don't like, we're going to cancel you. You see what I'm saying? We get, I mean, you know, I always just call it like I see it. It's crazy. Republicans, she's just like, yeah, I'm not with Trump, this and that. They vote her out of office. Over here, man, Converge, you should see the hate mail that we get from people. Oh man, you brought the mayor on. We need to counsel you and everything else. You know what I'm saying? So the same people that's probably pointing their finger over there at the Republicans, man, it's a lot of liberals out here that are doing the exact same thing when it comes to black media. And I keep bringing this up. And you know, it's hardly ever any black people. You know what I'm saying? It's usually white people who always want to go and tell black media who we can bring on air, and our black people and our black community. And I'll say this, we ain't got no time for no real rant here today. Where was you white people at when City Hall been excluding black media for the last 30 years? Where was you at? Where was you at? Even remember, for a whole year, I sent an email every day to the city, or every month to the city, to get us added to the media list. They ignored us for a whole year. Where was y'all at? Where was y'all trying to get access to? You guys have you been fighting when we've been locked out, when black media was so considered so irrelevant by elected officials, they wouldn't return phone calls or do anything else? Where was you at? Where was you?
I just got to say one thing on this, and this is very true. When we talk about, you know, white saviors and people trying to come in and be more upset about black issues than black people, this right here is not your lane, to be honest with you. And I think it really is another opportunity for people to understand and learn how to be an actual ally, how to be somebody who's supportive of the movement, who's seeing yourself as a part of the solution without tearing down the pathways that we have to get our messaging out there to folks, to make sure that there is a representation of black interest in a lot of this media. Unfortunately, that's the wrong way to go, folks.
I'm going to tell you like this. For you white people out there, if you thought that Converge was formed to push your ideology, I'm sorry to bust your bubble. Converge was started as a media outlet to represent the interests of the black community here in Seattle. And when black people on Union, on Jackson, on Henderson, on MLK, and out in Skyway, when they're sitting there telling us something, okay. But you know what I'm saying? This wasn't created here for you. It's good if you benefit from it. But our community wants to have media that can get anybody on the phone and hold them accountable. Now, whether you agree, if you agree with the mayor or not, if you agree with Nikita Oliver or not, we have Joe Nguyen and Stephanie Gallardo here today. If you agree with them or not, that's up to you, and that's your right. But man, stop trying to tell black media who we can put on air to talk to our community, because our community wants to hear from them.
Yeah, period. And at the end of the day, I got to say and uplift what O said earlier, that there was a heavy effort to be involved in bringing these people to these platforms. Now they realize the value of it. Yeah. It's not for you guys to then tear down. That was a lot of hard work and effort by constantly emailing, letting them know, hey, you know, black media, we're here
for years.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's not for them to decide whether that's the way to go or not. We need to hear from these people and hold them accountable.
We got ignored for years and kicked in the door. We got tired of begging. Where was y'all at when we was kicking in the door? When we need your support to kick in the door. Right. When we was iced out of City Hall, iced out of the county council, iced out of the county executive, iced out of the mayor's office. The only person, and I keep it real on here, the only person elected official who would talk to Converge 2-3 years ago was Shama Sawant. Councilmember Sawant was the only person that would talk to Converge. All of these people iced us out. We had to kick in the door. You know what I'm saying? And these white people out here, you need to stop doing that. You know what's best for us black folk.
Yeah.
You sit there and be like, well, we know what's best for the blacks. Why do the blacks want to talk to this person or that person? Why don't you let us? Can we live? I just want to live.
I agree. Oh, period, point blank. And if you weren't going to say it, I was, because I do remember Councilmember Shama Sawant being the only one who said, you know what, this is valuable. I'm able to speak to my constituents in this way. I'm able to keep it real with you guys, give you guys an understanding of where I'm coming from, and start to build that relationship. We talk about what it means to be relational all the time. And ultimately, it really is on public officials, elected officials, to make that bridge happen, to find a way to connect. And when Converge is here as an option for you to say, look, man, come right here. Tell the people what you're talking about. Let us understand. You got to be willing to be accountable if you're going to be an elected official. And I think that Converge has done the work to get these elected officials here at the table. It's not for you guys to decide who should be here or not.
Kick in the door. That's what I'm saying. And let me tell you one last thing, white people. Black people are smart enough to hear from any politician on here and make their own decision. We don't need your super leftist liberal coming in here making decisions for black folk. We not stupid. We can make up our own mind. Someone can sit here and listen to the mayor and say if she's full of crap or she's telling the truth themselves. We don't need your far leftists to come in here and make up your minds for us black people. We got brains for ourselves. We're going to break right now. We're coming back with Joe Nguyen. You watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm Omari Salisbury.
I'm Trey Holiday.
The fabulous, glamorous, and amazing Trey Holiday.
Thanks.
You just be popping off the screen.
I try.
Man, you do.
There we go.
All right, so looks like we got him in the green room. Oh yeah, D'Alessandro, please bring out Joe Nguyen.
How's it going?
Hey, Joe.
There you go.
And I need to actually address this correctly. State Senator Joe Nguyen.
That's right.
And what's this, the 34th?
That's the 34th legislative district. Do you mind? That was a fantastic lead into this as well, because that dynamic that you just called out apparently is pretty systemic, because I saw that in the legislature as well, where a lot of times people were talking about anti-Asian hate, and literally being in the room, having people talk over me about what is most appropriate for the Asian culture was kind of an interesting dynamic. And there's a book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. And there's a section called When the Oppressor Joins the Struggle for Liberation. When they move to the side of the exploited, they almost always bring with them the mark of their origins, which includes a lack of confidence in the people's ability to think, to want, and to know. And I think that's really what you're calling out, in the sense that, like, people understand now that we have to listen to people of color in our communities, but they haven't quite gone to the point where we trust each other to do our own things as well. So thank you for calling that out.
Joe, I just got to say this because, Joe, when you were here last time, you were actually talking about this and the importance of diverse voices being at these decision-making tables, right? And how you've really utilized your lived experience to do just that. So I thank you for even just, calling that out and letting us know how it's happening on the other end. Because a lot of the times, I'll be honest with you, for me, I always feel like, the Black community is the one that get the shortest end of the stick. So to hear that it's happening at different levels actually does something for me. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no, thank you for your work.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how before we kicked in the door, and by the way, we had to kick in the door over here. These same people who trying to tell us who we can talk to, where was you at?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And now it's the same people who trying to tell Black folks who they can talk to and who they can't. It ain't man. It's up. Our community is smart enough to believe the mayor or disbelieve. Our community is smart enough to believe a council member Morales or disbelieve. Our job is to make this platform available in our community for our people so they can hear directly from electeds and make their own decisions. We don't need you people to tell us what to do.
And you can't sensationalize it. I think oftentimes too, what ends up happening is we saw this kind of in the Crosscut article, to be honest, where it's like, the mayor is waging war against communities of color. And it's like, what are we supposed to do then? It's like, how they have the algorithms on Facebook or IG or something, and you read these hateful articles that come out and it's like, oh man, I'm about to go in and I'm going to go in on this. No, you're not going to be able to utilize me as a puppet. I just got to say that too. I think it's so important.
Man. So Joe, I gave the county executive Constantine 35 minutes and 2 seconds of my life last night. And I watched the state of the county address, a very well produced video. Although I think the music in the background, it would have been more well served to have like Little John or something playing in the background. But we want to give the county executive some time here. This clip is about 3 minutes. Let everybody know, because we didn't want to just chop. You know what I'm saying? But this is, and the county executive touched on several things, from COVID to environment to transportation. Right here, he's talking about social justice.
May 25th will mark 1 year since the murder of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer. And while we can commend the jury for holding his murderer accountable, true justice is still out of reach for far too many. The work to transform policing, transform the criminal legal system, transform America is bigger than any one of us. But each of us has a role to play in that fundamental quest. King County will be a leader, taking the risks to create real difficult change and showing other governments how to grab hold of the thorny stalk of racism and pull it up by the roots, keeping equity and social justice at the core of our work. Our collective task now is to address this foundational dilemma. No one in King County can thrive until every Black, Brown, Indigenous, until every person of color can thrive in King County. Over the last few months, my office has been working with the council on our $600 million proposed supplemental budget. These are the funds to keep people healthy and safe, and to get everyone vaccinated. It combines federal funds secured by President Biden and this new Congress, with state and local monies available for pandemic recovery. We've included innovative anti-racist investments like grants to counter hate and bias, promoting digital equity, and rebuilding Black, Brown, Indigenous, and Asian-owned businesses most impacted by the pandemic. Throughout our work last year, we heard from an unprecedented number of community members and partners about ways to collaborate and co-create investments that can further the truth that government should be breaking down racial barriers. We're putting $25 million behind that idea, and we're focused on partnering with the community to learn where and how that money can go to do the most good. These investments and partnerships are the next steps in our long-term work to upend centuries of economic inequality by engaging directly with and empowering communities most affected. And they aren't new to King County. This is the approach we've prioritized since the first Affordable Care Act enrollment, since the first Orca Lift low-income transit fare enrollment. Even in the current COVID-19 vaccine campaign, it is direct action by and for the communities most affected. This is also how we're working to improve the safety and well-being of our county. Through increased prevention, diversion, and alternatives to adjudication, we've been able to drive down the number of youth criminal charges from a daily average of 90 when I first took office, fewer than 15 during the first quarter of this year. This kind of nation-leading success is only possible with the work of partners across the spectrum, from the authentic voices of those most disproportionately impacted by the system and trusted community organizations working with King County staff to our public defenders and the prosecuting attorney's office. The only way to run the rest of the path to zero youth detention, or to keep the adult jail population down to the current record lows and ultimately close the miserably antiquated downtown jail, is an all-community commitment to see it through and to create a new paradigm for true community safety that reflects the collective will of the people of King County.
All right. So, you know, we didn't want to just chop, but that was the segment that kind of dealt with, like, you know, Black people and people of color and violence and detention and everything else. Joe, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, you know, honestly, our communities have had a lot of people come over the past few decades talking about all the great things that they're going to do. And candidly, the reason why there's a lack of trust within oftentimes public officials and communities is that it oftentimes happens when it's during a press release or a press conference, but then the follow-up doesn't necessarily happen. I think what we do agree in that video is that we need systemic change, whether it's racial inequities, whether it's homelessness, whether it's climate. You know, these are all problems that we have been dealing with for the past decade or so. And just saying that you're going to fix a problem over and over and over again doesn't mean it's going to get fixed. And candidly, it's because of the lived experiences that I've had this past few years that it is very hard for people to create systemic change when they benefit from the current system. That's why we need leaders who are going to be coming from the community, fighting with urgency to get these things done. So again, you know, the video is great. I think that's awesome. I support the initiatives and the efforts. The proof is in the pudding in terms of what actions follow up. And this is not a new thing, right? This has been happening in our communities for a long time. And being able to have leaders who can actually fight to fix them, I think is really what we need.
Well, you know, you bring up a really solid point here, Joe, around, you know, what we saw Dow talk about actually on Q13 around performativism, you know, and being okay. I just wanted to say, yeah, I think that's a great segue to that.
All right. Well, let's do that. So actually, you're going to jump forward one here. It's Dow on the Divide. So before we play this real quick, I'll just set up. Dow Constantine was with Brandy Cruz on the Divide on Sunday. And Dow Constantine, shots fired at Seattle City Council for being performative.
Seattle government, the city council in particular, has been a real problem lately, an impediment to us getting things done.
Why is that? What are they doing?
I think that there's just this focus on performative actions, on making a show of it rather than doing the difficult and unglamorous work of making government function well. And that has not been the way we've done business. And I would really welcome having the council turn toward taking on the tough challenges rather than just trying to appeal to this or that interest group.
Well, you know, I'm glad that we did have that clipped out to showcase it. And my thing is, you know, when we talk about, you know, performative actions, I really feel like so much of what is needed at the executive level for the county is relationship building on a real genuine level. And, you know, I've been in meetings with, you know, Executive Dow Constantine, and the follow through, I think, was where I started to see it dip off a bit. So I just want to ask you how you feel about that when you're talking about really making this effective change happen and making it sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, you pointed it out, right? So for instance, one of the things in that video called about lowering youth detention. And the way that they went about lowering youth detention was building a bigger jail, right? Like the actions don't necessarily match the words. And I think what you're saying earlier was that your audience is smart enough. We're all smart enough to kind of see through these things sometimes. So again, I'm not, you know, trying to belittle anybody. I think this is hard work. And the reason why it's also so hard is that our system is broken, right? Like the people who are benefiting from the system don't really have an incentive to quite change it. So when you have people from the outside, when you have a legislature at the state this past year, one of the most, if not the most diverse legislature in the history of Washington state, doing some transformative things, that's the power of having community, not just fighting to make sure that their voices are being heard, it's that it's being uplifted and amplified. And it is truly hard work. It's especially hard work when you've been doing it for 12 years in a way that wasn't reflective of the community, and now trying to shift to that mode because of the dynamics have changed. You got to be in the community fighting for the community members before it becomes.
So, hold on. So are you saying that a county executive Constantine's long-term, his record in totality doesn't really match up to his actions, maybe going up into last year to 2019, 2020, George Floyd, that his long-term actions don't match, and now that the climate has changed, that now his words and actions have changed?
I will just say that in my conversations with community leaders in suburban areas inside and outside of Seattle, I think there is a dire need to build trust with our stakeholders who are impacted by policy. So whatever the reason for why things shift or why they may not have shift, I do think that there is this desperate need for our community leaders to be heard, and that they are part of the decision-making process as well. And things aren't just made from a top down and then being told what to do, is that they are actually part of the conversation. So no comment in terms of what that particular action may be from the current incumbent, but I do know that that is a dire need that we have in our communities.
Right. And now this video, like I said, I mean, people should watch the video. It looks and sounds good. Me and Grab Brought was saying, though, it was like, you know, he needs some crunk music behind it or something.
Hype it up a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean, the county executives talk about all these wins and victories. You need a little job behind that. Yeah.
Well, I will say, I mean, it's tough, right? So it's hard. Like, look at this pandemic as well. It's hard to celebrate how great things are when there's so many people that are still suffering. When gun violence is
let me stop you right there. Please. Clip here. Dow, state of the county.
The state of King County is strong and indeed healthy and ready for a vigorous recovery. Let's mark this as the moment where we made the choice, where we decided to do not what was easy or what seemed in the moment possible, but what was difficult and what was right, where we set our course toward that true north and united to make this a place where every person will truly thrive.
All right, you said the county is strong, it's thriving, it's bouncing back, and it's time for bold action. And now I'll turn it back over to you because I interrupted you.
No, you're good. I mean, nobody's going to disagree with that, right? I'm from unincorporated King County. I'm from White Center, where we've seen generations of underinvestment. And you know what's interesting is the reason why we need bold action is because if you look at our budgets, that's really a document of our moral values. If you look at the general fund of King County right now, 73% of it goes to the criminal legal system. 73% of the general fund goes to the criminal legal system. We've in community have known that this has been a problem for a long time. So I'm glad that folks are now understanding that this is the right move and where we should be heading as well. But in the history of what we've been doing, we need to keep centering our communities that are most impacted, and they should be the ones helping make the decisions as well, not just after the fact. And we need to back that up with how we invest our money as well.
Yeah, the money is a huge factor in all of this. I mean, a lot of us, you know, we say, if you really want to get the real answers, you got to follow the money. And this is why so much of Community Voice was saying, how do we implement new solutions, community rooted solutions to lower the amount of the general fund that is going into the criminal legal system? I mean, honestly, you said it earlier, you know, when you call the system broken, but we always say, no, the system is actually working the way that it was designed to work.
Yep.
So this
100%.
is why so much of it right now, this is kind of the 4 pillars I always think about, Joe, okay, quickly, is that you have to work within the system while creating new solutions, a new system, while also tearing down the system without becoming a part of the system, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I got to ask you, how would you do that if you were given the opportunity to be the King County executive?
Yeah, and I will reiterate kind of what we said before, is that it is very hard for somebody to create systemic change when they benefit from the current system. And it's important to have people with lived experiences of bad policies to try to fight and fix them with urgency. So being from unincorporated King County, being from White Center, I saw where investments were made and where investments were not. But more important, in terms of how I would govern, if you look at what happened after Tommy Lay was shot in Burien, I sat down with community leaders. I sat down even with people I disagreed with in law enforcement to figure out kind of how do we move forward in a way that was mindful and respectful of his family and address systemic issues with police accountability. And that's the body of work that we've done since then as well. That's how you do it. There has to be humility. We can't just show up for the photo ops and the press conferences and then not show up for the community meetings that a lot of us have attended that aren't always comfortable, right? Like they're in an old stuffy room, they last a long time, and it's very tough conversations. But that's how we create change. And we have to uplift the people who are doing it right now. That's the difference. Picking the sheriff, I think, is going to be one of the most important things. And oftentimes the way that it's framed is that, the executive and the council, we're going to pick the sheriff and it's going to be great. Well, no, I think the community should pick the sheriff. I think that part should be baked into that system as well. We have to really think the paradigm in which we operate and change the way things are. That's how we build a better future.
Well, I know you probably have something. Oh, I'm sorry, but I when we talk about Tommy Lay case in particular, and you being able to sit down with community leaders, immediately what I thought of was, how do we hold the system accountable? Because there's a lot of people that are benefiting from the way it is, as you said. And when we see that, hey, they are saying, no, you need to be in person for this trial. His grandmama needs to come in here during a pandemic and COVID, and which was hitting our elder community.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how, if you're able to sit down with the community leaders, how do we make sure that kind of stuff is not happening still, and people that are in positions of power are wielding their power in that regard?
Yeah, well, first off, obviously, that's literally the reason why I think it's important for us to have a democracy where you have challengers. Oftentimes, when people are too comfortable in their seats, they don't necessarily engage in that tough effort to engage community members. And candidly, I think we've seen a lot more interest and investments in certain things that have been ignored for a little while, knowing that there's going to be some sort of challenge, right? So in essence, part of our democracy is to ensure that we have robust debate, and that's part of it as well. But also know that our rules are just rules that were created, by somebody, by a certain time. We have to be able to change those as well. We can't just accept the fact that things are the way that they are. We can try to change them, right? I think the root cause for a lot of the issues that we're facing in our communities is income inequality, racist housing discrimination, red lines, right? Things that have took away wealth from Black and brown communities and then concentrated into other communities as well. So for me, this whole thing is systemic. This whole thing has to be addressed at the root causes for us to truly address these issues as well. And that's part of the way that leadership should happen, is that it's not just picking certain things here and there. It is working with our legislators, working with our other council members. And yes, there are dynamics that make it tough for some of the issues in Seattle, but I don't think I would belittle people because of it. I would try to figure out what's the impediment that they're facing and how do we move past. So I think people are trying to get past some of the divisiveness to actually get things done.
All right. Joe Nguyen, we got to cut you loose there. We have someone else who's going up against a long-time incumbent. We have Stephanie Gallardo, who's been in office a long time, too. Before we let you go, how can people keep up with your campaign? Yeah, follow us. Meet Joe Nguyen, Nguyen. The website is meetjoewnguyen.com, on Twitter, on Facebook. We've already had over 100 people sign up to volunteer. We've had a tremendous amount of support out the gate. And we're pretty excited about what these next couple of months look like as well, because I truly think that this is the time for change and our communities need to be prioritized right now. So thank you so much for having me on. All right, Joe. Thanks. And I mean, I'm sure we'll be talking to you again real soon. I appreciate it. All right. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we have Stephanie Gallardo. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media
Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right. Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury. And right now, joined for candidate for Congress, right?
That's right.
Stephanie Gallardo. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Good morning.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. It's your very first time here. Your race isn't until next year. So I know that we'll probably be having you on a few more times before then. You're out early in this race.
Yeah.
The floor is yours. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about you?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm actually feeling like I came here on the right day after what I just saw from you all, including State Senator Nguyen. I just want to say I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing on this show. So I'm out here early, like you said. I'm out here very early because that's what it's going to take to beat a 25-year incumbent, especially Adam Smith, who's one of the most deeply entrenched Democrats in Congress. He's also the chair of the House Armed Services Committee. And so I'm out here just starting early, getting ready.
And now geographically, what area is that district?
Yeah, so the furthest north it goes is the International District. It goes down through Beacon Hill, Skyway, comes over to South Park, which is where I live, and then goes all the way down to North Tacoma.
Man, part of that district there is what people at least used to call one of the most diverse zip codes in America, 98118, right there. It's a real diverse district.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, 25 years in office, do you feel like Adam Smith has been serving the constituents and they're like, yeah, we want to keep him in office? Or do you feel like people have fallen asleep on the wheel because it's been comfortable, been in Congress for a long time, name recognition? Yeah, I mean, people stay in office for a reason.
Right.
Either constituents just have fallen asleep or they're serving their constituents.
Right. Well, I certainly don't think the constituents have fallen asleep, but I don't think that they have felt impassioned by somebody going up against Adam Smith in a very, very long time. And I think that Adam Smith has continued to basically be allowed to stay in his position. He does have great constituent services. I'll give him that. But the fact of the matter is that he's not in community. He is not community. He lives in one of the richest areas in the entire district, and every single place he's lived is nearly all white communities. And the 9th Congressional District is the only minority majority district in the entire state of Washington. And I think our district is ready for a person of color, a young woman of color like myself, to take this position.
All right. And speaking of positions, what are some of your platform positions?
Right. So I have three main platform positions. The first one, and for me, the most important one, comes from my lens as an educator. So I've been a teacher for 5 years at Foster High School in the Tukwila School District. And I believe being a teacher has truly given me a lens from which to view the government's priorities. And I can tell you that first and foremost, the government does not prioritize education. I see what our young people are going through. And the second thing that I'm focusing on is also the immigration system. I'm the daughter of a refugee. I come from a family of immigrants, and what I see happening is unacceptable.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Is it, clearly I grew up just north of the district there. You said the International District, which should almost be Jackson Street.
Yep.
Right. And I actually grew up on 29th and Jackson. Went to James A. Garfield High School, Central District. But I do know this, is that these Democrats have been running the show for a long, long time, right here in the city of Seattle, right, the state of Washington, and out in Washington, D.C. And guess what's happened over these decades and decades of Democratic control? What's happened to Black people here in the city of Seattle is the income inequality gap has gotten bigger. The home ownership rate, which is generational wealth, has declined. and the gap in education between Black students and white students has increased. So it's a lot of people, whether it's individuals or party that's been in power for decades, and they've literally overseen the decline of Black people in the city of Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing I want to say here is that I'm running on a Democratic ticket, but I am an unapologetic Democratic socialist. And I think there's a major difference between being a Democrat and being a Democratic socialist. And the Democratic Party, as you've said, has definitely led to gentrification, has led to the impact of in BIPOC communities that's just completely unacceptable. The inequality that we're seeing is growing. It's not getting better. And I think that with somebody coming in with new ideas and understanding that the Democratic Party is not God is going to be very, very different.
My friend, the Democrat Party is definitely not God. And if we just go back in the time machine, just a little itty bit, the Democrat Party, that was party of the racist South. That was a party of the Klan. Personally, all these people are the same people. You know what I'm saying? You switch names. A lot of these ideologies have remained. People just switch titles and everything else. So it isn't like the Democratic Party has this long and pristine track record, that they hold up today. So I'm definitely not drinking the Kool-Aid. What makes you think that you could defeat this 25-year incumbent who clearly has a political machine?
Yeah, well, I think being an educator gives me a very specific skill set that nobody else in Congress has. There's only actually 4 other educators in Congress right now. One of the most recent elected was Jamal Bowman over in New York. And I think that being a teacher has truly given me the ability to not only teach people, but understand people and empathize with people and know what needs to be happening. Not only am I part of this community, I am community. And my incumbent, I don't think, can say the same.
All right, Stephanie Gallardo, how can people keep up with your campaign?
You can follow me on Twitter at Elect Gallardo, and my website is electgallardo.com.
I don't like Gallardo.
Yeah.
No, I'd like to be correct. I've lived and worked all over the world, so I'd be liking to really get people's names on point.
Thank you.
Gallardo.
That's right.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to take a quick ZYD break. When we come back, Trey Holiday joins me back here on the set. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Public Health, Seattle, King County, Zero Youth Detention, along with our partners from across the South King County region, are committed to reducing violence and creating the conditions needed for our neighborhoods to be safe and free of crime. Too often, the response to crime and violence has been a piecemeal approach with a program here and a program there. When family units collapse, schools fail to educate, the economy fails to produce jobs, and crime rises, we've looked to law enforcement and punitive measures to save us. Nothing could be more wrong or further from the truth. Law enforcement can't shoulder all the burden or take the rest of us off the hook. We are acknowledging the lived experiences of Black, brown, and indigenous communities. We are centering community as the experts who can effectively identify key issues related to systems, policies, and practices that impact children, families, and communities of color across this region. Those most impacted by the issues will help call out and identify the root causes, including structural and systemic factors. 150 residents will partner with King County to develop strategies, solutions, and an action plan that explicitly addresses system changes needed and eliminates barriers to access for Black, brown, and indigenous folks. These residents will also identify the criteria used to measure our collective success. Simply put, we need your help as we do the work needed to make King County the safest in this country. It will take specific commitments from all of us, community members, our young people, elders, and leaders from the sectors all across this region. Together, we will get this work done. Please click the link below and sign up for a work group. Or you can recommend a co-facilitator from community for each work group. We look forward to hearing your ideas, concerns, feedback, and solutions as we build a community where all our children can be happy, healthy, hopeful, safe, and thriving.
Yep, zeroyouthdetention.com/work groups, man. You know what I'm saying? Be a part of the solution here in King County as they work to disrupt gun violence and build safer communities. Welcome back to the set, Trey Holiday.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, it's Stephanie Gallardo.
Yeah.
Man, going up against Adam Smith. I mean, that's David versus Goliath, but you got to get out there. People want to make a change. Get out in the streets. You got to run for office.
That's right.
You can't just talk trash on Twitter.
Well, there's multiple ways for folks to find themselves as a part of the solution. And I think we have the link. I think I sent it to you. I don't know if it's already in the chat. But even today, King County Council is having a public hearing where, you can actually be a part of the solution as we, advocate for Gurmai's amendment to the King County budget of $30 million. And so, again, there is a heavy push here for folks to really see yourself as a part of the solution. I've been telling you guys, I'm going to try to give you opportunities to see advocacy in action and actually give you the opportunity and the exact connection as you look to see yourself as a part of the solution. I think you're absolutely right, man. There's plenty of ways to do it out here.
All right. So we got 10 minutes left here. We had some other headlines, but I know it's going to send us in a different way. So we're going to send them until tomorrow. So we'll focus on some good stuff here. Man, to the South Seattle Emerald right here. It says Dre's headline. All right. With Born to Win, Dre's pays homage to Zimbabwean ancestry. It's from the South Seattle Emerald. Our man over there, Mike Davis, wrote this up. You can check that at the Emerald. And people might know the Dre's is the one who actually produced our theme song. This is Seattle's own. Yeah. So our song, and he's released his single Born to Win. Dre's was here last Friday with Feel Good Friday. I have a teacher here, Barbara Nielsen, so everything else. You didn't get to see the video then. We've got a snippet of it right here. This is Dre's Born to Win.
My mama went from Mutare to Seattle. Now they love me from Seattle to Harare. Guess you could say I'm born to win.
Ndinoda kuti nyika isiwe vanhu vangu inguva yedu hatingatadzi kubudirira Mwari ari parutivi pedu rambai muchirwa. My hitters don't die, and real hitters gon' shine, and my people gon' rise. 'Cause we're born to win, yeah. I ain't saying
I not have a deal. I swear this thing is a real dog. I play fan off the cowards so they can't feel. The wife try to console me like it's coming, baby, chill. She don't understand. I'm the only one that's real. I remember the 3rd grade. Them kids, they had waves. I had them BDBs. You know that Zimbabwean grade. So they do shade till your boy hit the stage. Press play and all the chicks was like, yeah. While boys was moving bricks, I was moving chips. If she gave me calculus, gave her a mouthful of it. Heat rose to this thing, boy, I bet on myself. Drippin' sauce, probably need that soul glow on the couch. I'm a star, I should be on top of the Christmas tree. I'm a star. Why you think these wise men follow me? Even though it was crazy till it started raining. Bruh, I ain't saying, I'm just saying.
nyika isiwe vanhu vangu inguva yedu hatingatadzi kubudirira Mwari ari parutivi pedu rambai muchirwa. My hitters don't die, and real hitters gon' shine, and my people gon' rise. 'Cause we're born to win, yeah. I ain't saying, I'm saying.
Why be Frank Lucas when you can be Howard Schultz? Big head don't Dre's with me if I smoke. Now I ain't mean to insult, baby. If I don't agree with either party, where the hell I cast my vote, baby? Cream rises to the top, and that's true. But I found out that she floats too. Now I'm in this successful with rappers who think mumbling is good. And I'm the hater, why? 'Cause I don't mess with none of you.
Man, there he is once again. Every time Dre's drop something, man, it gets me moving, man. I know it gets y'all out there moving, man. That was a hot track.
Yo, Born to Win. And so we would actually talk. Dre's and sent me some music before he released it. And I told him, especially all those years that I spent living and working across the continent of Africa, when I heard Born to Win, and I believe that's O.R. Runga as well on the horn there on that track. And I was like, man, it talks to me. So dope track. Dre's Born to Win out there right now. We definitely want to support our brother as much as we can.
And you know, one of the things I love about Dre's and how he really utilizes his platform is to bring in folks and talent that is local, like Owar, another amazing Garfield grad and my brother. And honestly, I just love seeing that. You know what I mean? It's really about that kind of camaraderie and artistry. We've talked about it with other folks, you know, Martial Law Band too. I mean, we've talked about this with a lot of folks, Shayna Shepherd. I mean, really, the people bring them their talent in from this local level, and Dre's definitely does it. Beautiful.
All right. And now this I'm looking forward to Friday because Friday we're going to be joined by comedian Rod Long. Rod Long is going to join us right here for some Feel Good Friday because Laugh Rehab is returning out there to South Seattle. I think we have an overlay here. You can tell us a little bit more about Laugh Rehab, Trey Holiday, because you've attended one of these.
Yeah, absolutely. Converge was present at the first Laugh Rehab. It had me and Onika and Proof in the play cracking up. I mean, we were all out there, man. We had some photos. We were able to, you know, check in with C's, who really, you know, has worked really hard to pull this together. And obviously, we've been talking about it with Nate Jackson's Super Funny Comedy Club, that again, the comedy sector was hit really hard with COVID because clubs just shut down. So the fact that there are opening and there's opportunities for you to get out of the house and get your laugh on, I suggest that you do it. It's coming up this Saturday, and I'm glad that we'll be having Rob Long on Friday.
Right. And can we put that overlay back up real quick, Oya? And right. And so this is Saturday, May 15th at Rainier Arts Center. And that's right there on Alaskan Way. Yeah. And so Laugh Rehab. And like I said, on Friday, we'll have comedian Rod Long here for some Feel Good Friday. Then we might have a real heavy interview on Friday too. We'll still confirm it. I believe also that we're going to have council member Tammy Morales here early next week. So Tammy Morales taking up our offer, and council member Morales will be here next week. We're still working out the details on that. Before we get out of here today, Trey Holiday, any last words?
You know, I'm going to encourage you guys and remind you once again, check out the King County Council meeting that is happening. You do not have to register for public comment. You know, the more voices, the better. I mean, folks need to be able to put their voice out there with regard to this $30 million amendment. It is a great way for you to see yourself as a part of the solution, which is going to continue to be my message out there to all of you, because even as Joe Nguyen was here talking about it today, the need for diverse voices is so key and pivotal right now as we talk about a transformational change in this system that isn't broken. It's definitely not working for all. So see yourself as part of the solution.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I would say this, man, let the Black people live, because the Black people that we serve are smart enough to make their own decisions. We don't need you to tell Black people who they can talk to and who they can't and everything else. We do have some brains for ourselves. That being said, everybody, I want to remind you to go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity, and until tomorrow at 11, who? Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is what exactly what I'd like you to do. Tomorrow, we're joined by David Obels. Malcontent News, and man, David has actually been keeping up with a story over in Kirkland. He's been staying on top of it. It's a Black shop owner over there who's been facing a lot of racism and malcontent. People might remember it was David Malcontent up there on that story up in Snohomish County, and those death threats that were happening at the high school up there. And he brought that story over here, and you know, for amplification. And this is another story that he's been on top of. And so David is going to join us tomorrow, Malcontent. So let me cue it back up. Go forward in your purpose. Go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.